and we are moving now to Delta State, the delineation activities and all of the storm that it has brought up, this very sensitive situation. Some people feel like a side is being favored over another side. Well, today on the program, we have both sides. Joining us in the studio right now, we have Mr. Collins Celmore, who's the President General of the Warri National Congress and Grand Patron of the Ijaw Youth Council. Thanks so much for being with us on the program.
Thanks for having me.
And then joining us via Zoom from Warri, Ojum Tosan, Bishop, who I recognize from some protests that we saw there recently. Ojum is an environmentalist, indigenous, ethnic minority rights activist. Thank you so much, Ojum, for being with us on the program. Hello, can you hear us? Ojum?
Yes, I can hear it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us on the program. All right, let's start off with Mr. Collins. Now, we've seen pro and anti-protests. Some non-governmental organizations saying they're in support of this delineation, and then other people saying that they are not. I want to be able to get yours, and your Ijaw. So I think in your case, many people, like our guest who's on Zoom, believe that this delineation is favoring your side of the divide.
Well, we don't need to go around that. Supreme Court has given judgment. You don't need any other opinion. All you need to do is to comply. But
what if people are feeling like they are not being represented, which is the issue? They feel like this has skewed it. You've recut, the INEC has recut the lines in their communities and basically made them have lesser representation than your side does.
Well, it depends on the content of that Supreme Court judgment. The judgment is for INEC to comply. INEC has complied. And in compliance, these three tribes, Urobo, Shekiri, and Ijaw, they were part of the compliance. They executed the judgment. The result has come out. If you have any grievances, we are in a constitutional government. A democracy where it's expected that you derive a phenomenon that reconciles government efficiency and its legitimacy. The authority that we have given to those who are in custody of our legislative rights and our executive rights through our ballots and our freedom. Those are the four fundamentals of democracy: judicial arm of government, legislative, and the executive.
You're not worried that people who feel like they have been cheated in this matter will cause conflict in your community?
Okay, that is where I come in. That is why I come, because I don't want it to degenerate to that level. I've always been an ambassador of peace, as a soldier of the cross, and I feel that in my process, unending suffering is redemptive, and I want everybody to key into this redemption. Peace is key, it's priceless. It belongs to God Almighty, and it's priceless. Once there is no security, it affects the whole democratic system. You will now see brothers against brothers, sisters against brothers. That is what I don't want. And it happened 29 years ago. And I took the Shekiris, the Urobos, in their hundreds, protested. One of them now is a judge. Orisha is a judge in Delta State. What are we talking about? I am not obsessed with double, location and tribal location.
So is it resolvable?
It's resolvable. That is why I'm here, and that is why I'm involved.
So
they shouldn't let it degenerate to the extent that they will now jettison the economy of this country by protests, and some are doing illegal bunkering, taking advantage of what has just happened. So it cannot jettison the transition of the fatigue that has been meted on us to the buoyancy of hope.
Let's talk to Ojum. Ojum, you heard what he had to say. What are your thoughts?
Nigerians, first of all, my brother Collins Celmore is not even from Warri in the first place. He's from Bamadi. So let's keep that aside. The issue at hand, I wonder how it's becoming Ijaw and Shekiri issue. This is not Ijaw and Shekiri issue. this issue is between the Chekiri and the government of the day, which had failed woefully in many areas, submerging the minority rights. The Chekiri people are not just people that just come from somewhere 20 years ago or 100 years ago. They are a country of their own before the amalgamation. They predate Nigeria. In fact, the documents being signed by the Portuguese before that of the Dutch and later the British are part and parcel of those credentials, those integral foundation that form today Nigeria. The fact is that INEC, National Boundary Commission, and many others federal agencies have done a lot of blunders that we are not aware of. They are the one we are taking on. They are the one we have discovered and we are taking on. So I wonder how the Ijaws of today decide to become, advocates on behalf of INEC and the National Boundary Commission, which have done all these blunders.
Okay, so can you...
There is a court judgment that's important.
Can you help us understand your position against INEC?
Okay. The INEC of the day, firstly, let me go back to the roots of this issue, historical record, which is just about 2 decades ago. 23 years ago, the Chekiris got an Supreme Court judgment, a judgment in favor of Chekiri Nation, which is the 10-ward and 12-ward delineation in Warri South. INEC did not implement it today, in this very moment, for 23 years. In that process, while we were waiting for the implementation, they went behind the Chekiri Nation to carry out, to take an issue to court with other parties in Warri Federal Constituency. They went with other parties, take the issue to court, got a judgment on our behalf. We're not aware. And they are indebted to us in a judgment. They are yet to implement for more than 12 years, more than 23 years right now. After 18 years, they got the judgment without our knowledge. Between a year or two after that judgment, they are fast to implement it. In the process of implementation, this will shock you. They never called the Chekiri Nation to Abuja as part of the stakeholders in Warri Federal Constituency. We forced ourselves to belong. At the end of the day, you will be surprised that these same persons went as far as making an Ijaw woman from Bayelsa the head of the committee. Even the deputy happens to also be from Bayelsa. The Ijaw woman is Rhoda Gamus. She is a member of the Ijaw Leaders of Thought. And she's a lecturer in Western Delta University. Is it Western Delta University? But Niger Delta University in Bayelsa. A deputy is an Ijaw. So what are we saying here? This issue is not between Chekiri and Ijaw. I wonder what is bringing the Ijaw into it. This issue is between the Chekiris and the Nigerian nation.
So let's speak to that, Ojumude. This delineation, I want you to be able to, so that we can understand what the issue is. This delineation, how does it shortchange you as an Chekiri man?
Okay, let me come to that. It's very obvious that we were on purpose being shortchanged. For instance, I will take Warri Southwest, for example. The Chekiri are formerly having 6 wards, while the Ijaws are formerly having 4 wards. After the delineation, which the INEC forcefully did, the Ijaws are now having 14 wards. While the Chekiris are having just 5 wards, which means they actually depreciate in ward, while one actually triple in almost 4 folds in wards. That is one part of it. The ward that was tripled in this lot of folds, we're having 147 units, polling units, and 95,000 and some voters. They were given 14 wards. While the Chekiri ward that was 6, that was already having 175 polling units and the registered voter population of 94,000 were reduced. So how do you define that? What statistics did the INEC use in arriving at that? What we have said is very clear. The INEC, this is not only INEC. The National Boundary Commission is also there that has tampered with Shekiri lands and boundaries. We are not aware of all this nonsense they did. We are rejecting it. Okay. We continue to reject it.
Okay. Thank you. Let me get the reaction of Mr. Collins here. I'm sure you heard him.
I sympathize with him as an environmentalist. All the nefarious activities being meted on us by the Nigerian state via oil conglomerates, he has not been able, as an environmentalist, to unravel that. So yes. I sympathize with him.
Okay.
One, I will take him by his tribes. He said, I'm from Bomadi. You are defining my location as a Nigerian citizen. The ignorance is unbearable. The Constitution provides that if you live in a place for 10 years, you can locate your voting rights to that place and be a Nigerian citizen to vote and to be voted for. So I'm embarrassed with all this ignorance that I am not from Warri. Let me tell him a brief history of Warri. If we want to go historical.
We may not have time for history. But the point we're trying to get to here.
Okay, let me take him. Yes. He said they had a Supreme Court judgment.
Yes.
They didn't have a Supreme Court judgment. It was a Court of Appeal judgment. The 6-4 ward in the Warri Southwest brought the Shekiri and Ijaw crisis. I was involved to make peace, and the relative peace you enjoy today in Warri was my making. They took that matter to the Supreme Court and they were defeated.
So
this 6-4 ward.
So there is a Supreme Court
judgment. There's a Supreme Court judgment. The Shekiri went to Supreme Court on this predicament, and they were defeated. On what is alleging 6-4 ward, Shekiris went to the Supreme Court on the relocation of the local government, and they were defeated. So the Supreme Court judgment is talking about that INEC did not comply with. Wasn't a Supreme Court judgment, it was a Court of Appeal judgment. Then the issue of ownership. Ownership is not a function of politics. Like you can see in the 2023 election, the Yorubas are owners of Lagos, but Obi won. So delineation has nothing to do with the economic stability of a place. Politics is about economic power. Appropriation of economic goodies by the Nigerian states to the integral sub-national states and the local government.
What do you say to the issue he raised as regards the way it looks like the Shekiri have more population, in, like for instance Warri North, and it appears they have less. They have less.
That
and
population, yes.
Okay, so
that population is talking about was designed and defined by the 6-4 wards, which was, of course, an orchestrated mentality by political combats. The reality has come now. So that 6-4 ward in Koko does not reflect the population of the Shekiri people as being more than the Ijaw people. I tell you something. For want of population, the royal father, the father of this present Olu, went beyond and said the Shekiris should marry their cousins. For want of population, that didn't work. Then the Warri metropolis we are talking about, that is telling me, Collins and Celmore, not to belong to Warri. I want to imagine if my father had a property in the late 50s, invested in Warri, I was born in Warri, then somebody is coming to tell me I'm not a Wafarian. I'm a typical Warri boy, so I'm taking him by his tribes. Then the issue of INEC trying to play games. INEC is not playing any game. If you look at it critically, they are not playing any game. Supreme Court gave judgment. It is not everybody that must subscribe to a Supreme Court judgment. It is not everybody that would like a Supreme Court judgment. If it doesn't favor you, it's natural that you will go against it. But what I'm saying here, typically, is that they shouldn't take advantage and take for granted the security infrastructure that the federal government has put in place to take off oil facilities and to reduce to a maximum extent oil theft. That is where they are going. So you can see their protest is to oil conglomerates, is to close oil pipeline. And there is a structure in place to take care of this. If not, it's going to jettison the $1 trillion economy of this government. And it should not be coming from the bond pickings between the Shekwiris and the
Very
Ijaws.
briefly, what is the way forward for you?
The way forward is for us to find a panacea for truth. And it's for the Ijaw people, the Shekwiri people, and the Robo people who are domiciled in that geographical expression that expresses the wealth of this nation. So we can.
No, I'm talking of specifically to this issue now of the case INEC's delineation. What is the way forward to resolve this?
The way forward is for them to accept the Supreme Court decision.
Okay.
And for us to live as brothers and sisters.
Mr. Ojum, your response, please.
And so also, yeah.
You're muted, Ojum.
Okay.
Yes,
the fact is very simple. The issue of the local government he tried to draw in, I was in the Supreme Court when that judgment was delivered. The federal government says that recognize Ogidigben to be the rightful place of the local government as gazetted by the federal government. That's what the Supreme Court judgment said. He said that we should go home and implement it, which means we should go home and resume in the main headquarters. But you see one thing, that's why I'm saying it's the federal government that is the problem. It's the government of the state that is the problem. They have failed woefully to actually implement cases that are in favor of the Shekiris just because they are minorities. Because some people will threaten fire and thunder. Some people will threaten militancy, blowing up pipeline. At the end of the day, the government of the day will say, go to round table, allow it be, because it just wants the oil to be flowing, which is they want the national economy to keep running. That is the problem we are having. Now you are saying the word delineation issue. What is the way forward? The way forward is simple. INEC had done a total fraud by going behind the Shekiri nation back to start a case and arrive at a conclusion without their notice. And when they set up the committee, when they want to talk to stakeholders, they did not call the Shekiri nation. And when they finally set up a committee, Rhoda Madmus or Gadmus, that's her name, is an Ijaw lady and leaders of thought. And you cannot be an interest party and judge in your own case. And what we are all saying has come to reality. Like I always say, the National Boundary Commission still have their faults, and still yet we have not known other faults from other ministry, from the federal government. Why is the federal government doing these things? They want peace to reign in the Niger Delta. They want to keep us siphoning fuel. Or no, not siphoning, sorry, federal government cannot siphon fuel, sorry. They just want this peaceful atmosphere so that they can continue mining the crude oil. You getting me? So whatever if they look at you that you are rugged, you can do things, you can bomb pipeline, you can destroy the economy, they want to give you that leverage. We won't go to roundtable on this. We have gone to roundtable a lot of times, and we have also give. Shekiri always give to the federal government and the state government to satisfy them. We are not giving to our neighbors. I don't see us giving to our neighbors. That is the thing I've gotten to realize.
All right, we do have to wrap up this conversation. And, the opportunity, and I think it's important to speak to that, Mr. Collins.
Yeah,
the fact that they have the right to express how they feel.
We also have the right to express.
Yes.
The man has just admitted that they're in minority. He has just admitted it. Then he accused INEC of corruption. How is that possible? Let me tell you this. The Cocoa Ward, that is Warri Southwest, Warri North, and Warri South.
Yes.
All together is 250,000 voters.
Oh, well,
look, I just want to clear INEC on this. I want to clear INEC on this.
In 10 seconds.
Yes, I want to clear INEC on this and the federal government on this, please.
Yes.
Okay, but please help us do it.
I will do it fast. The result that produces the present National Assembly member was less than 10,000. What happens to the 200 and something?
All right.
Then two, the federal government has put in place security to man their facilities.
All right, we do.
People are taking advantage to go into illegal bunkering and all that. That is for another day.
Another day.
INEC has done nothing wrong. The federal government has done nothing wrong.
I want to thank you very much, Mr. Collins Celmore, President General of the Warri National Congress and Grand Patron of the Ijaw Youth Council, for being with us on the program and for sharing your views. And of course, thank you to environmentalist, indigenous ethnic minority rights activist, Ojum Tosan Bishop. Join us from Warri. Thank you very much for being with us on the program.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.